Hey, this is Gary from 3Bug Media, and today we're going to talk about how to run an efficient AdWords campaign. So if you're just starting out or you're thinking about using Google AdWords and you're going to be doing it yourself, then I want to give you a couple good solid tips for you to get the most out of your campaign. Now, Google likes to advertise Google AdWords directly to small business owners. And they try to make it seem like it's super easy to do, you can do it all yourself. But the reality is it's actually a pretty complicated system to actually get it right. It's easy to set up a campaign. It's actually very difficult to run a successful, profitable AdWords campaign. So hopefully, if you don't have the budget to hire somebody, you're going to be doing it yourself, then I want to give you some good solid tips you can use to make sure that you're running an efficient AdWords campaign. So first thing we want to talk about is keyword match types. So keyword match types is when you're adding keywords to the Google AdWords platform, you have an option if you want to add them as broad keywords, modified broad, phrase, or exact match keywords, and how you select that makes a huge determination on how and when your ad actually shows. Okay, so with broad match, when you add, say, red roses, broad match, you're giving Google license to pretty much do whatever they think, whatever they want to show, you're giving them license to do basically whatever they want. So if you type in red roses, they could show your ad if somebody types in pink flowers, or somebody types in what is a rose, or anything even remotely connected to that search term, you're giving them free license to show your ad, which is usually a terrible, terrible idea and will cost you a ton of money. But we'll get back to that in a second. Second one is modified broad match. Modified broad match is you put a plus in front of the search term that you want to make sure is included in the search, in the actual search. Okay, so you can see from broad match for red roses, it showed pink flowers. Doesn't have these words in there. With modified broad match, if you put a plus in front of the red, you put a plus in front of roses, then you're telling Google to only show my ad if somebody types in the word red and the word roses. Doesn't have to be in order, but they has to include this search term. So why are roses red? Your ad could still show up. So that still may not be who you're trying to target. Phrase match is similar to modified broad match, except when you put it in brackets, red roses, it has to show up as in that order. So I love red roses, your ad would show up because it has red and roses in that order on there. So that's a phrase match. And lastly is exact match, which is the most restrictive. And you're basically telling Google only show my ad if somebody types in red roses exactly and nothing else. So red roses, it will show up. Google has taken the liberty to modify that a little bit, so it's not always 100% exact match. So if somebody types in red rose, Google might still take the license and show your ad even though you set it as an exact match. Okay, so you need to determine which keyword is going to work from you. Rule of thumb, broad match almost never works. I would almost never ever use it unless you're running a very, very specific campaign for a very small target market, like a very small area in your city or even just a neighborhood, and you just don't have enough search volume using these to even get searches. Maybe you would start with that, but there's not many use cases for this. Or if you're doing research, so you're not really sure what people are searching for to find what you're trying to sell, you might run a broad campaign for a couple weeks just to get the volume of data so you can actually look and see what people are typing in to find your product, your type of product or service. Other than that, broad match is almost never going to be used. Modified broad match is a good one if you're doing a local ad campaign. So if you're a local business doing it just for your city or part of your city, you may find that exact match is just too restrictive. You can't get enough searches, you can't get enough clicks for it. So you might use a modified broad match for that. And if you're going to do it, you have to rely heavily on negative keywords, which we'll get to in a minute. So it really depends on the scope and budget of your campaign. If you're targeting all the United States for a pretty popular search term, you're never going to use broad match or even modified broad match. A lot of times you're just going to be using exact match because there's enough volume there to get the clicks that you need on there. Okay, so this is number one. make sure you get your keyword match types correct. Don't use broad match. Is not, like I said, is not really any use cases to use it. Moving on, focus ad groups and keywords. This is a common one. If you're doing it yourself, you put everything in the kitchen sink inside one campaign, inside one ad group, and then you have a hodgepodge of different search terms, different things that you're targeting, and it just becomes a big mess. Doesn't work, doesn't convert. Google penalizes you because it's not an efficient campaign. It's just terrible all around. So good rule of thumb is focus your ad groups and your keywords very tightly. Okay, so say if you're a contractor, instead of just creating a campaign and ad group for contractors, or hire a contractor, or home renovations, things like that, and throwing all your keywords in there, separate your ad groups by the type of service that you use, that you offer. So you could have one ad group for kitchens, one for basements, one for bathrooms, one for condo renovations, and in each one start out with 8 to 12 keywords in there. That's enough to, you may add more later, or you may take some out, you may make some modifications, but that's a good range to start with. And make sure, if you're running an AdWords for ad group for kitchens, make sure that your 8 to 12 keywords are people that are specifically searching for kitchen renovations, kitchen contractors, things like that, and make sure it revolves around kitchen. Okay. Same thing for basements, bathrooms, condos. So kind of look at your website. A lot of times your website will give you an indicator of how you should break out your ad groups. If you're offering different categories for products or different services, a lot of times those should all be their own separate ad groups on there. They can be separate campaigns, so you can do different budgets and things like that. But if you break them out into separate ad groups, you're good as well. Okay. Moving on, negative keywords is super important. If you're running your own campaigns, negative keywords should be one of the tactics and activities that you do most often. And what happens is, to work on your negative keywords works essentially like when you add a keyword to Google, to your campaign. So when you add a keyword, you're saying, show my ad for this. With the negative keywords, you're saying, Google, do not show my ad if this keyword is in the search term. Okay, so make sure you spend a lot of time on this, because this will help you from spending a lot of money. So basically what you'll do is, at the very minimum, on a monthly basis, if you're getting a lot of clicks and you're spending a lot of money, make sure you do it at least on a weekly basis. You're going to go to your search term report under keywords, and the search term report is going to show you exactly what people typed into Google, the exact words in there. When you review that search term report, what's going to happen is you're going to find a lot of search terms, especially in the beginning, that are not relevant to what you're offering, or they're just not indicating that somebody's ready to buy. And examples of that would be, say you're selling hot tubs and you only sell new hot tubs. So you might see in the search term report, people are searching for used hot tubs, broken hot tubs, hot tub repair, things like that. Good negative keywords would be, broken, used, repaired, things like that. You add those negative keywords, and then going forward, Google will not show your ad if any of those words are used by the searcher. Okay, so make sure you do this often, and a lot of times you'll want to take out, right off the bat, you'll want to add negative keywords that indicate somebody's not ready to buy, right? So if somebody types in, why should I buy a hot tub? You don't want to spend $5 or $10 a click if you're selling new hot tubs, because that person is not even close to buying a hot tub. So you might add negative keywords like why, when, how, things like that, because those are all inquisitive questions, not necessarily people ready to make a purchase, and you may not want to waste money on those type of searches. So make sure you spend some time in your negative keywords, and this is one of the things that you should be doing on a regular basis. Next is, make sure you connect your AdWords account to Google Analytics and you review your call reports. Okay. So Google Analytics, you can connect your AdWords account to them, and what will happen is, hopefully, which you absolutely should, you should have goals set up inside Google Analytics. So if your services, you want to lead form submissions, count as conversions, downloads, things like that, any action that you would consider a conversion, Once you connect Google Analytics, you'll be able to pass that conversion data back to Google AdWords and actually see what ad groups and what campaigns are creating conversions for you. Same thing with call reports. There's a call extension inside Google AdWords where you can add call extension where your phone number will appear in the ad and somebody can click on it if they're in mobile, and it'll call your business and it'll show you in the report, the call report, how many people did that, on a monthly basis or whatever you're looking at. So you may not see this by default in your view, but if you click on modify columns, you can actually add the call conversion reports on there and see. So ideally, you're using more sophisticated software, you're using call tracking and other conversion metrics, but at the very least, if you're not doing anything, make sure you connect Google Analytics. You have goals set up in there so you can track them in Google AdWords, and you also are looking at your call reports in Google AdWords as well. Okay, make sure you review this data on a regular basis, because this will be an indicator of, is my campaign working or not. Okay, now take it with a grain of salt, because people can bypass, click on your ad, go to your website, write down your phone number and call you. So just because you don't see a conversion doesn't mean they didn't contact you or anything like that, but it's a good overview of how your campaigns and your ad groups are running. Okay, and lastly, review your campaigns and your ad groups on a regular basis and make sure you make adjustments. No AdWords campaign is awesome right out of the gate. Okay, even professionals, agencies, when they set up their campaigns, you're not gonna hit a home run right off the bat. Google AdWords campaigns get better over time, and that comes with continually adding negative keywords. Every time you add negative keywords, you reduce your cost, you reduce your wasted clicks. Test out new ads, test out new keywords on a regular basis, review how they're performing. Review suggestions from Google. Google will give you suggestions to add keywords or add new ad groups, things like that. Take them with a grain of salt, because a lot of times they're too general, they're not accurate, and they're just telling you dump another 35 keywords into your campaign, and a lot of them will just cost you more money and not give you any more conversions or business. But sometimes they do give you some good ideas, so take some time once a month or so to review their suggestions and see if there's any good nuggets of information and good ideas that you can use. Okay, so with Google AdWords, like I said, it's easy to set up, complicated to get it right, but if you're doing it yourself and you follow these 5 tips, over time your campaigns will get better, your efficiency will improve, and your costs will come down. So if you have any questions, you can go to 3bugmedia.com. Thank you.